Welcome to the I'm Healing podcast. I'm your host, Iris L. Mendez of ILM Healing Solutions. Here, we will talk all healing solutions for the soul. Let's heal. Welcome back, and thank you for tuning in to the I'm Healing podcast. Today, we are going to talk a little bit about yoga. And I want to make this a beginner basics, your 101 info related to yoga. And so I hope that for those of you who are listening, if you are not new to yoga, I hope that some of this information is helpful for you too. But if you are completely new to yoga, I wanted to talk a little bit about what yoga is, what yoga isn't, and maybe bust some of those myths related to practicing yoga in general. So, generally, when we think about yoga, we want to make sure that we pay homage to yoga in itself as a practice and historically where yoga derived from. And I think that that jumps right into one of the very first myths related to yoga, and that is that it is associated or needs to be aligned with some sort of religion. And I want to bust that myth right now. You can be of any practice religiously. You can identify with any religious affiliation or spiritual identification and be able to practice yoga and really implement this into your daily routine. Yoga historically has been a practice for many years, over 5,000 years ago, and it's primarily found to be practiced in India, and people who have backgrounds related to Buddhism and Hinduism, they tend to practice this as well, along with their rituals of prayer. And so yoga is deeply rooted in our history. And I think that when we think of yoga in modern times, there are certain circumstances where I feel that yoga has been appropriated culturally, especially when we take certain deities of different religion aspects and, maybe coincide that with some sort of promotion of yoga or, something that is more modern. And so I say that to say, if you do practice yoga or if you are following yoga, that, you pay homage to where this originated and how it originated, and really diving deep into the history of yoga and understanding that yoga is so much more than just meeting yourself on your mat. And I like to reference a book here that is one of my really favorite go-to books related to yoga. It is called A Little Bit of Yoga, An Introduction to Postures and Practice by Megan Stevenson. You can find A Little Bit of Yoga at Barnes & Noble or on Amazon. I believe I have this linked on my Amazon page if you're interested in taking a look at that. Make sure you head over to my website, www.ilmhealingsolutions, that's SOULUTIONS, for a list of some of my preferred healing products. So make sure that when you are thinking of yoga, that you're thinking about it from the bigger picture. Yoga isn't just fancy poses, although social media likes to make us feel that way, especially me as a yoga teacher. I see various poses and some people in some very extravagant, flexy, bendy poses that my body just can't get to right now. I'm working on that. In addition to inversions, which is, standing upside down types of poses, those are the poses I tend to not challenge myself on often, which is something that I'm working towards so that I can get better. So as you can see, yoga is more than just a workout. It's a work in as well. And that quote comes from Megan Stevenson from the A Little Bit of Yoga book that I'm referencing today. And I really love this book because it doesn't just talk about really yoga as a whole. It incorporates yoga as a practice. Yoga has a set of sutras or a set of observances or practices that guide us spiritually. And the 8 limbs of yoga include the yamas, the niyamas, and when it comes to yoga, you'll hear a lot of Sanskrit language as well. So the yamas are basically your corrective behaviors towards each other in society, and then the niyamas are basic principles in which we should live by in our own life. So, for example, being pure, being truthful, practicing nonviolence, not stealing, not wasting any energy, ensuring that you're not giving into pain and fears and temptations often or all the time. And then obviously the asana is also a part of yoga, which is asana is a Sanskrit word for the actual physical practice. So the actual poses and getting into the body. And then we talk about the pranayamas. You might have heard that in a yoga class if you've taken it before. Pranayama is really just expanding our life force, which is our breath. So making sure that you are tuning into the breath, so taking breathing exercises and mindfulness activities, just like the ones that you can find on this podcast. So definitely make sure that you are practicing deep breathing practices for yourself. If you're not even meeting yourself on your mat or doing any yoga poses, that alone is a part of yoga. So understand that in the grand scheme of things, if we had a big, huge picture of yoga, it's not just the centered picture of someone in an actual yoga pose. Yoga is a lifestyle, it's a way of living. And there are 8 different limbs of yoga. And so if you want to learn a little bit more about the Yoga Sutras, I would definitely recommend this book. It's called Living the Sutras. It's a guide to yoga wisdom beyond the mat, and it's by Kelly DiNardo and Amy Pierce Hayden. And another ancient text that I would definitely recommend if you are looking into learning more about the Yoga Sutras, I would also look into the story of Patanjali and look into any of his work as well, because it is very deep rooted in historical yoga text. And so for any new yoga beginner, whether you're a beginner or you're not, definitely look into the work of Patanjali, or really assess for yourself or self-inquiry with yourself. How are you living the 8 limbs of yoga? How are you living by the sutras for yourself? And that's going to take your practice a little bit deeper off of the mat. Now, as far as yoga as a practice goes, there are many, many different styles of yoga. And I think that a lot of people think that when it comes to yoga, you need to be flexible in order to do it, or it's only for women, it's not for men. Oftentimes, for me as a Puerto Rican Latina, I struggle with feeling as though yoga represents all cultures. And I think that that's another myth, is that, as a minority, you might feel underrepresented in these spaces. But understand that yoga is for everyone. Unfortunately, I wasn't privileged to this as a skill or a coping skill growing up. And, this is why I'm here to provide this knowledge and this information, because I want to make sure that this information is accessible to everyone, and understanding that, yoga is for you as well. It's not just for, a certain type or a look or a gender or a skin color or anything like that. And, I want to share a little bit about my mat journey. I like to call it. I started yoga, I want to say sometime in 2014. And this was around the same time that I had started practicing mindfulness as well. And I think I talk a little bit about that in my previous episode about mindfulness and the end of graduate school, and me kind of aligning myself with my spirituality and really trying to focus on making sure that I took care of myself. And yoga kind of found me along the way, and I started to go to a local yoga studio towards the end of graduate school. And I was going not very often, but I did reap the benefits from going, just a handful of times in the beginning. And immediately I can feel that my stress levels had gone down, especially during this time frame when I had been going through. Obviously, graduate school is stressful enough. I was at the end of my year. I was doing a 3-year part-time program for my graduate in social work, in addition to a full-time job working at a local hospital nearby, in addition to a part-time graduate school required internship, which was also done at a local hospital. So I was pretty burned out. So I'm really glad that I did find yoga, because looking back, that was 2014, it's now 2020. And this has really been a tool that I use every day. And if I don't have an actual class that I'm taking, or if I'm not participating with the community, or actually going to the studio, we're all practicing stay-home orders at this time during COVID-19 pandemic. So unfortunately, studios are closed. But even if I'm not going to a studio or practicing myself or teaching or leading a class, I try to make sure that I incorporate yoga in my day-to-day routine, whether that's pausing to take some deep breaths. So again, that pranayama, going back to the life force, the breath, or actually meeting myself on my mat and just getting down. And even if I'm just in child's pose for a few minutes or a few breaths, even if I do one sun salutation, or even if I just do some cat and cow poses. So those are just very simple, easy things that you can do throughout the day. You can Google these poses: child pose, cat cow pose. Those are pretty beginner level types of poses. And so when we think about the benefits of yoga, obviously it's going to improve flexibility. It's going to improve any muscle tension and muscle strength as well. It's going to improve, your cardiovascular system, your respiratory system. It's also going to improve maintaining balance, and it's going to help maintain weight. So if you're looking to utilize yoga as a way to be physically active and, help to maintain a certain body weight or a certain physique, yoga is helpful for that as well. And it can also improve athletic performance. So for athletes, it's definitely beneficial for them to incorporate some sort of yoga or stretching into your routine, alongside any of the other types of workouts that you do. I personally have been teaching locally at a gym that does lots of boot camp style CrossFit workouts. And, yoga is an added thing or an added service that the gym offers to these people who are already taxing their body with physical activity, throwing tires, CrossFit stuff. I also used to do a lot of that as well. So shout out to Dan's Ironworks in Havertown, Pennsylvania. That is where I have been teaching. And so I'm hoping to get back into the gym and get back into a studio once things open back up for us due to this stay home orders for COVID-19. Now, yoga isn't just physically beneficial, it's also mentally very mentally helpful. It can definitely reduce symptoms of a lot of different mental health disorders and any type of somatic work as well. Somatic meaning that you're getting back to the physiological body. And so typically we do feel things in our body physiologically, even when it stems from an emotional place. So, something to be mindful of is that yoga is going to be helpful for you if you are struggling from mental health because you are getting back to the body. And if you have history of PTSD, post-traumatic stress, or you've been exposed to some trauma, you've got anxiety, you've got difficulty sleeping, yoga is definitely helpful for all of these different stressors. And when you try different yoga styles, I definitely want to encourage people to definitely try to go and look up different styles. When I first started my yoga teacher training, I had no idea that there were so many different styles of yoga. And I truthfully was overwhelmed when I had an assignment that I had to go to 5 different yoga style classes. And so some of the styles that I chose to go to were yin yoga, aerial yoga, Bikram yoga. I believe I did Ashtanga as well. There's Iyengar. There's also Power Baptiste yoga, which is the style that I'm also trained in. So I'll talk about a few, but I definitely want to share this information for you to really just dive into, any search engine and really start to research the style that you think is going to be the best fit for you. Specifically for me, I am trained in Baptiste Power Yoga. And Baptiste Power Yoga focuses on some of the things that we already talked about. So obviously the asanas, which is the poses, the actual poses, getting back to the body, meeting the body, the brain, the spirit, the gut, like just really being with your body. And so getting on your mat and actually going through a flow or sequence of poses is part of yoga. So the asana is a practice, then the meditation is a part of Baptiste Power Yoga. And then there's self-inquiry that is also involved with Baptiste Yoga. And self-inquiry is really just making sure that we are taking tools or asking ourselves clarifying questions and really inquiring about anything that can help us improve with any self-development. And that's why I like Baptiste yoga, because it does focus on those 3 things. The other reason that I like Baptiste yoga, it really is a workout. It really is, one of those styles of yoga that I probably wouldn't have a regular beginner, start off with. Definitely not in a heated room. Maybe just a beginner style of Baptiste yoga, non-heated, because it is practiced in a heated room, and you're going from different poses to poses rather rapidly. Some of them you do hold a little bit longer, and then you just go right back into the flow. So you're coming out of a Baptiste yoga class probably drenched in sweat. And the same goes for any hot yoga style yoga class, including Bikram yoga. That's another style that's typically hot. Aerial yoga, it involves having to really work on the inversions, which is, being upside down, which is really helpful for the body, in addition to working on, balancing the body. It all helps with trusting the self and trusting the body. So I would definitely recommend trialing aerial yoga if you never have. You've probably seen some advertisements for aerial yoga, which will include it kind of looks like a large fabric piece hanging from the ceiling. So that's what aerial yoga is. And yeah, definitely give it a try if you've never had. The other style that I really want to talk about today is yin yoga. And yin is specifically for slow moving type of style. So it's slower paced. You're basically moving a slower pace to get a deeper into the muscle release. So the the similarities between yin and styles like hatha yoga are that you might be staying in the yoga poses a little bit longer, for at least 3, sometimes even upwards to 8 minutes. And that's really so that you're getting deep past the muscle tissue into the fascia of the muscle, and you're really getting that release. And I also like to recommend, if you're looking into yin yoga, I like to recommend Angela Perder. She has her own website. She does offer some yin training on her website, in addition to having her own podcast. And she actually was one of the actual inspirations for me to start this podcast. So Angela Perder, you can find her simple_Ayurveda. She actually is a modern day Ayurveda guru, I call her, because she's really introduced me to Ayurveda, which is the sister science of yoga. So if you're interested in looking into that, follow her on Instagram at simple_Ayurveda. That's AYURVEDA, which is another really great practice to implement into your lifestyle to help with healing. It's ancient practices as well. So we'll definitely make sure that you're taking advantage of the tools that she has on her website and her podcast, the Simple Ayurveda podcast. Okay. Now, finding your yoga, what does that look like? Right. So my suggestion and recommendation would be to really just put yourself out there and try different styles, search different styles online, maybe sign up for some online classes if they're offering virtual at this time, or set up a time later on this year to actually go to a studio and practice. I mean, there's really nothing in comparison of community when it comes to yoga and practice. That's probably the most takeaway part of it. The most beneficial takeaway part of it is building that sense of community with people who are literally just being on their mat and leaving all judgment behind, and just being with themselves and their body. And I often tell my students, how you treat yourself on your mat is how you treat yourself off the mat. So if you're in tree pose and you're falling over and you're judging yourself and you're sucking your teeth at yourself, or you're shaming yourself, you may want to self-assess whether or not you're doing that off the mat in other areas in your life or in your workplace, at home, things like that. So that's how I say that yoga is really a lifestyle, and it's not just something that you do on your mat. But really, it's about finding your own yoga, finding your own way in yoga. And yoga for you may look very different than yoga for everybody else. It may look different than what you see on social media, and that's okay. You just have to be able to do the work, to do the work in, right, and the workout, to really meet yourself on your mat and just breathe. And an at-home practice doesn't have to look perfect. And that's something that I've come to learn over the past few months, and now that we are in stay-home orders, it's kind of refreshing for me, because I am comfortable enough with just getting on my mat and getting in one pose, and then seeing where else my body takes me. Listen to your body. Your body's going to tell you what it needs. It's going to tell you which way you need to move, and all of that. You just have to dig a little bit deeper and look within. And sometimes all that takes is maybe just sitting with your hands to your heart and taking some deep breaths and really just practicing some gratitude. So I thank you for tuning in. This has been your episode on yoga basics and my version of Yoga 101. If you like this podcast, please like, subscribe, share, and please leave a review. Definitely leave a review or email me. I want to hear from you. I can be reached at ilsolutions@gmail.com. And make sure that you follow me on Instagram. That's ILM_healing. And you can like on Facebook at ILM Healing Solutions. And again, that's SOULUTIONS. Thanks for tuning in. Let's heal and happy healing.